In 1866, a Texas rancher named Charles Goodnight bolted a wooden pantry box onto the back of a surplus Army wagon. That invention, the chuck wagon, changed everything about how cowboys ate on the open range. But Hollywood never showed you the real meals. Number 18 used an ingredient so bizarre that trail cooks gave it a name too vulgar to print. And number 3 involved a chemical reaction between campfire ash and cornmeal that modern food scientists say unlocks nutrients the human body cannot access any other way. That modern food scientists say unlocks nutrients the human body cannot access any other way. These 25 meals kept 250,000 cowboys alive across 500 miles of brutal terrain from South Texas to the railheads of Kansas. No refrigeration, no resupply, just fire, dust, and ingenuity. Before we start, hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 25 most forgotten meals from the American Cattle Trail. Number 25, hardtack soaked in bacon grease. Before anything fancy turned up in the chuck wagon, cowboys carried hardtack. Those dense square crackers were baked from flour and water and nothing else. They dated back to the Civil War, when soldiers called them sheet iron and worm castles. A single cracker could survive months in a saddlebag without spoiling. The problem was eating it. Hardtack was so hard it could chip a tooth. Cowboys soaked it in hot bacon grease or crumbled it into coffee until it softened into something chewable. Some cooks fried the soaked pieces until the edges crisped, turning watery bean soup into a meal with texture. A barrel cost about $2 and fed a crew for weeks. It tasted like nothing. That was the point. Pure survival fuel for men 80 miles from the nearest town. Number 24, cowboy beans. Pinto beans were the backbone of every cattle drive. Dried pintos traveled light, lasted forever, and delivered protein that kept a man upright through 16-hour days in the saddle. The cooks soaked them overnight, then simmered them for hours in a cast-iron Dutch oven buried in coals. Salt pork or bacon ends went in for flavor, wild onions if he had foraged any, a handful of chili peppers if the outfit ran a South Texas crew. By evening, the beans turned into a thick, smoky paste that clung to a tin plate and stayed in your belly through the long night watch. A 50 lb sack cost around $4 in the 1870s and stretched across an entire drive. Cowboys ate beans at breakfast, beans at supper, beans cold from the pot at midnight when they came off watch. The men complained about the consequences loudly and never once turned down a second helping. Number 23, beef jerky. Long before gas station bags and teriyaki glaze, jerky was the original trail food. Cowboys cut lean beef into thin strips, rubbed them with salt, and hung them over low smoke or draped them across wagon frames to dry in the sun. The process pulled out nearly all the moisture, creating a product that weighed almost nothing and lasted for months. Trail jerky was nothing like what you buy today. It was drier, more brittle, and so salty it could make your lips crack. Cowboys chewed it like tobacco, working a strip for 20 minutes just to soften it enough to swallow. The smart ones crumbled jerky into stews or soaked strips in water to rehydrate the meat. Native peoples had perfected this technique for centuries before cowboys adopted it. The name ought from frontier slang, though nobody agrees on exactly why. Some say the golden color resembled bear fat. Others say it was just cowboy humor. What nobody disputes is that bear sign was the most beloved food on the entire trail. No recipe in the chuck wagon earned more loyalty. Number 14, skillet cornbread, the daily bread of the cattle drive. The cook mixed cornmeal with a little flour, salt, and baking soda, poured the batter into a greased skillet, and nestled it into the coals. The bottom formed a thick, crunchy crust. The inside stayed moist and crumbly. The whole thing slid out in one golden disc. Cowboys crumbled it into beans, sapped it through gravy, or ate it plain with a drizzle of sorghum syrup. Number 13, vinegar pie. When the chuck wagon had no fruit and only a jug of apple cider vinegar, the cook made magic. Vinegar mixed with sugar, eggs, and nutmeg created a filling that tasted remarkably like lemon custard, poured into a pastry shell. Cowboys demanded to know where the cook found lemons on the prairie. The answer got a laugh every time. The chuck wagon itself was an engineering marvel. Goodnight's 1866 design featured a hinged tailgate that formed a work table. A fully stocked wagon cost about $75 to outfit. Modern food trucks run north of $50,000. The design worked for 40 years. Number 12, pemmican, dried meat pounded into powder and mixed with rendered fat. It could last for years. A single pound packed around 3,500 calories. You ate it because the nearest campfire was 6 hours behind you. Number 11, fried prairie chicken. A good shot could bring down enough to feed the crew. Fried golden and crispy. Fresh meat of any kind was cause for celebration. The flavor was richer, with a hint of the wild grasses. Number 10, bacon and bean one-pot stew, the most common supper. One pot, one fire, one meal for 15 men. By evening, the beans had absorbed every drop of pork flavor. This was the answer when time was short and mouths were many. Number 9, chuck wagon chili. Meat and peppers in a thick, fiery red sauce. Real trail chili had no beans. Trail chili could be dried into bricks and reconstituted weeks later, one of the most portable meals on the drive. Number 18, son of a gun stew. This is the one with the unprintable name. When a calf was slaughtered on the trail, the cook used everything: heart, liver, tongue, sweets, kidneys, and the key ingredient, a tube connecting two of the calf's stomachs called the marrow gut, found only in unweaned calves still feeding on milk. This tube was filled with a substance resembling bone marrow that gave the stew its legendary richness. The cook diced everything, browned it in a Dutch oven, added wild onions and water, and simmered for hours. Cowboys considered it a luxury because you did not eat the cattle you were paid to deliver, but when a calf was born mid-drive and could not keep up, that was different. Old trail hands said you could judge a cook entirely by his son of a gun stew. Too much liver and it turned bitter, not enough marrow gut and it lost its soul. Number 17, Dutch oven peach cobbler. On special nights, maybe after crossing a river without losing any cattle, or after reaching a town where supplies could be restocked, the cook would break out the dried peaches. He soaked them in water until they plumped back to life, then sweetened them with brown sugar and a splash of whatever whiskey someone was willing to sacrifice. Those peaches went into a Dutch oven lined with biscuit dough, and coals were placed underneath and on the lid. 40 minutes later, the camp smelled like a bakery. The biscuit crust puffed golden and flaky. The peaches bubbled thick and syrupy beneath it, and grown men who had spent the day choking on dust went dead silent at the first bite. Dried peaches cost about 15 cents a pound, a luxury on a trail budget, which is why cobbler was reserved for occasions. A good cook knew that morale mattered as much as calories. One cobbler could keep a crew happy for a week. Number 16, spotted pup. Spotted pup was the Cowboys' version of rice pudding. The cook simmered rice until tender, then stirred in raisins or dried currants, brown sugar, and a splash of canned milk if the wagon carried any. The raisins scattered through the pale rice gave the dish its name. It looked like a spotted dog. Cowboys who spent every meal eating beans and salt pork treated spotted pup like a reward. It was sweet, soft, and reminded them of something their mothers might have made back home. Rice traveled well, and a small amount expanded dramatically when cooked, making it one of the most efficient staples on the wagon. Number 15, bear sign. The fastest way for a trail cook to become a legend was to make bear sign. These were donuts fried in deep rendered lard over an open fire. The cook mixed flour, sugar, and sourdough starter into a soft dough, rolled it out, cut it into rings or twisted it into knots, and dropped the pieces into a Dutch oven filled with shimmering hot fat. They puffed up golden and crisp in minutes. Rolled in sugar while still warm, bear sign disappeared from the plate before the cook could finish frying the next batch. A cook who could make bear sign had his pick of outfits. Cowboys would ride extra miles and work longer shifts for a man who fried donuts on Saturday nights. A week's worth of protein fit in a coat pocket. No fire needed, no preparation required. Sourdough biscuits were the lifeblood of the trail. The sourdough starter was a living culture of wild yeast, kept alive for years and sometimes even slept with by the cook to keep it from freezing. Baked in a Dutch oven, they came out heavy enough to anchor a hat in a windstorm. Perfect for soaking up bean juice and bacon grease. Then there was fried salt pork, aggressive, salty, and the foundation of every meal. It was the sound of another day survived. The cook was the highest paid man on the drive. barber, dentist, and doctor. Disrespect the cook and you didn't eat. Simple as that.